Rico Martinez stared at the flickering holographic display showing his account balance in the grimy cantina of Omega Station 1. Universal credit, that pathetic number blinked mockingly at him as he nursed his last cup of synthetic coffee, the bitter, taste matching his mood perfectly. His cargo hauler. The Stellar Wind sat in docking bay 12 with a blown fusion core that would cost more credits than he could earn in a year. 3 weeks ago, he'd been riding high on a successful run of rare earth, minerals from the Kepler colonies now. He was just another stranded pilot watching his dreams evaporate in the recycled air of this outer rim station. The repair estimate had crushed what little hope he'd had left without his ship. He was nothing, more than another drifter in the vast expanse of space. The cantina's atmosphere pressed down on him like a physical weight smoke from a dozen different worlds created a hazy cloud that burned his eyes, while the constant chatter of aliens speaking, in languages he didn't understand, reminded him how far from home he really was. Earth felt like a distant memory, a blue marble he'd left behind in pursuit of fortune among the stars. Instead he'd found only debt and disappointment. Rico's fingers traced the worn edges of his credit chip as he considered his options. The station's cheaper accommodations were still beyond his means, and sleeping in the cargo bay wasn't an option with station security cracking down on vagrants he'd already sold. Everything of value except the clothes on his back and his pilot's license, which wouldn't do him much good without a ship to fly. As he sat contemplating his bleak future, a flicker of neon caught his attention through the cantina's grimy windows. Across the station's main corridor, a pink sign buzzed intermittently. Several letters dark and others strobing like a dying heartbeat. Cosmic Haven Lodge, it read, with smaller text, promising rooms. From 1 credit, all species welcome. Rico's heart skipped. A beat 1 credit was exactly what he had left. It seemed too good to be true. But desperation made him willing to overlook the obvious red flags. The establishment looked like it hadn't seen maintenance since the station was built, and the few beings he saw entering and leaving didn't exactly inspire confidence, but a bed was a bed, and he was tired of sleeping, sitting up in uncomfortable cantina chairs. The walk across the station's main thoroughfare felt like a journey into another world. Their spectacle, businesses with their clean facades and proper lighting gave way to the station's seedier district, where broken signs advertised services in a dozen languages, and the air recyclers wheezed with mechanical exhaustion. The Cosmic Haven Lodge sat at the end of a corridor that smelled of industrial lubricants and something Rico preferred. Not to identify, the lobby managed to be both garish and depressing. Simultaneously, holographic advertisements for various entertainment services flickered on. Walls that hadn't been cleaned in months, while furniture that might have been fashionable decades ago now looked like relics from a more optimistic era. Behind a desk that had seen better centuries sat a gelatinous alien with multiple eye stalks, and what Rico generously assumed was a customer service smile. 1 credit 1 night, the Bing gurgled in heavily accented standard, its voice producing sounds that human vocal cords were never meant to. Make room 47 shared facilities, no refunds, no complaints, no questions. Rico accepted the magnetic keycard with trembling fingers, trying not to think about what shared facilities might mean in a place like this. The elevator wheezed and groaned its way to the 4th floor, and he found himself in a corridor painted in colors that suggested the decorator had been either colorblind or actively hostile to the concept of visual harmony. Room 47 sat at the end of the hallway next to a vending machine that claimed to sell authentic Earth cuisine, but looked like it hadn't been restocked since humans first left their home system. Rico slid the key card with their signation of a man who had run out of better options. He expected to find a coffin-sized space with a cot and hopefully functional plumbing. Instead, the door opened to reveal a surprisingly spacious room, bathed in soft, warm lighting. The furniture looked comfortable and well-maintained, a stark contrast to the lodge's exterior appearance. Gentle music played from hidden speakers, and the air smelled of something pleasant that reminded him of jasmine and ocean breezes. For a moment, Rico wondered if he'd walked into the wrong room. Then he saw them 2 alien women turn toward him with expressions of delighted surprise, as if his arrival was the best thing that had happened to their day. The taller one had skin that seemed to shimmer with its own inner light, a soft silver that reminded Rico of moonlight and water. Her hair fell in waves of liquid mercury around her shoulders, and her eyes held depths that suggested intelligence and kindness in equal measure. She wore a flowing garment that seemed to be made of captured starlight, shifting and shimmering with every movement. The second woman was smaller, but no less striking. Her skin held the deep purple hues of a sunset sky marked with intricate golden patterns that seemed to pulse gently with her heartbeat. Her eyes were the color of molten amber, warm and inviting. And when she smiled, Rico felt an unexpected sense of peace wash over him. Her clothing appeared to be woven from something that looked like captured aurora, shifting between purple and gold as she moved. "Oh, wonderful," said the silver-kinned woman, clapping her hands together in genuine delight. "You must be our third roommate. I'm Zara. And this beautiful soul is Nick's roommate," Rico managed to say, still standing in the doorway like a man who'd forgotten how to walk. Nick's smile grew warmer, and Rico felt that strange sense of peace intensify. "You seem confused." "Dear one, didn't the clerk explain? This is a Harmony suite designed for 3 occupants. It's quite common in this sector for travelers to share accommodations, much more economical and far less lonely." Rico's mind raced trying to process this unexpected turn of events. "I'm sorry, I think there might be some mistake. I just paid for a room and I wasn't expecting company. I don't want to intrude on whatever arrangement you two have." Zara laughed to sound like silver bells dancing in a gentle breeze arrangement. "Oh, we just met an hour ago. Nix is from the Empyrean system and I'm from Zarian Prime. We're both traveling the trade routes, and we thought it would be nice to have company for the evening." She gestured around the room, and Rico noticed, for the first time, that it really was designed for 3 people. 3 sleeping loves were built into the walls, each with privacy screens and personal storage. 3 comfortable seating areas were arranged around a central space, and 3 individual refresher units were visible through an archway. "I understand if this is unusual for your species," Nick said gently. And when she spoke, Rico felt an odd sense of calm settle over his racing thoughts. Humans often prefer solitude, don't they? But we've both been curious about Earth culture. If you're willing to stay, we'd love to learn about your world." Rico hesitated, every instinct screaming that this was too good to be true. Beautiful, alien women didn't just invite broke cargo haulers to share luxury accommodations out of the kindness of their hearts. There had to be a catch, some angle he wasn't seeing. But as he looked at their faces, he saw nothing but genuine friendliness and open curiosity. No hint of deception or ulterior motive. The room was certainly better than anything he could have hoped for. With his single credit, the sleeping loves looked comfortable. The furniture was clean and well-maintained, and the 2 women seemed genuinely pleasant company. After weeks of isolation and stress, the prospect of actual conversation with intelligent beings was almost as appealing as a comfortable place to sleep. "Well," he said, stepping fully into the room and letting the door seal behind him with a soft hiss, "I guess I'm your roommate for the night." As the door closed, Rico Martinez had no idea that his single credit was about to buy him the most important night of his life. The room's atmospheric controls adjusted automatically to accommodate 3 different physiologies, and he noticed that both women seemed to relax as he settled into the space with them. Zara moved to what appeared to be a control panel, her fingers dancing over holographic displays with practiced ease. "Let me adjust the environmental settings for human comfort," she said. "I've studied your species requirements." As part of my research, Rico asked, settling into a chair that seemed to mold itself to his body's contours. "I'm a xenobiologist," Zara explained, her silver skin shimmering with what Rico was beginning to recognize as excitement. "I study the biological and cultural interactions between different species. Meeting an actual human is incredibly valuable for my work." Nick settled gracefully onto a cushioned platform that began to glow softly beneath her. "And I'm an empathic healer. I can sense and work with emotional energies. I've been curious about human emotional patterns for quite some time." Rico felt a flutter of nervousness. "What exactly does that mean? Can you read my mind?" "Not your thoughts," Nyx assured him, her golden patterns pulsing gently. "But I can sense your emotional state, and with permission I can help alleviate stress and anxiety. You're carrying quite a burden of worry, aren't you?" It was such an understatement that Rico almost laughed. "You could say that I'm basically stranded here with no money, no prospects, and a broken ship I can't afford to fix. Worry doesn't begin to cover it." "Tell us what happened," Zara said, genuine concern in her voice. "Sometimes sharing the burden makes it lighter." And so Rico found himself telling them everything: his dreams of independence as a cargo hauler, the successful runs that had made him think he'd finally found, his calling theme mechanical failure that had stranded him here, and the crushing realization that everything he'd worked for was slipping away as he talked. He noticed that his usual anxiety about sharing personal information with strangers seemed muted, replaced by a sense of safety. He couldn't quite explain. "That's terrible," Zara said when he finished. "To have your dreams crushed by something so random and mechanical seems particularly cruel." Nix had been quiet during his story, but Rico could feel something from her, a gentle warmth that seemed to ease the tight knot of stress in his chest. "You've been alone with this worry for too long," she said softly. "No wonder you're exhausted." "Occupational hazard of cargo hauling," Rico said with a bitter smile. "It's a solitary business, but you're not alone now," Zara pointed out, "and perhaps together we can find a solution to your problem." Rico looked at these two remarkable women who had somehow entered his life at its lowest point, and felt something he hadn't experienced in months. Hope, not the desperate kind that kept him checking his credit balance obsessively, but genuine optimism that perhaps things might actually work out. "I don't know what I did to deserve meeting you two," he said honestly, "but I'm grateful." "The night is young," Nick said with a mysterious smile, her golden pattern shifting to warmer hues, "and I have a feeling it's going to be full of surprises." As if responding to her words, the room's lighting shifted to a softer, more intimate glow, and Rico realized that whatever was about to happen, his single credit had bought him far more than just a place to sleep. It had bought him an adventure that would change his life forever. The soft lighting of the Harmony suite created an intimate atmosphere. As the three of them settled into comfortable conversation, Rico found himself relaxing in ways he hadn't experienced in months, the constant tension in his shoulders finally beginning to ease. There was something about both women that put him at ease. Zara's genuine scientific curiosity and Nix's calming empathic presence created a perfect balance of intellectual stimulation and emotional comfort. So Zara said, "Activating a holographic display that showed star charts and species classifications in my research on human culture. I've discovered that you have something called comfort food. Can you explain this concept to us?" Rico chuckled, surprised by the question. "Comfort food. It's basically dishes that make you feel better emotionally. Usually things you ate as a child or during happy times. They're not necessarily the healthiest options, but they make you feel safe." Agues Nix tilted her head, her golden pattern shifting with curiosity. "Food that affects emotions directly among my people. We use empathic resonance to share emotional comfort, but I've never heard of using nutrition for the same purpose." "What's your favorite comfort food?" Zara asked, leaning forward with the intense focus of a scientist. "Discovering something fascinating: pizza," Rico said without hesitation. "Definitely pizza. It's this flatbread with tomato sauce, cheese, and whatever toppings you want. My grandmother used to make it every Sunday when I was growing up on Earth." Both women exchanged glances, and Rico caught something passing between them, not quite telepathic communication, but definitely some form of understanding that went beyond words. "Would you like to try making it?" Nix asked. "The suite has a full food preparation facility with molecular synthesis capabilities. We could attempt to recreate your grandmother's recipe." Rico's heart skipped a beat. He hadn't thought about his grandmother's pizza in years, had pushed those memories away, along with everything else that reminded him of the life he'd left behind. "You'd want to do that?" "Of course," Zara said, standing gracefully and moving toward what Rico now realized was an incredibly sophisticated food lab. "Understanding how food connects to memory and emotion is crucial to my research. And besides," she added with a warm smile, "we'd love to share something meaningful with you." As they worked together in the compact but well-equipped kitchen area, Rico found himself opening up in ways he hadn't expected. Nix's empathic abilities seemed to draw out his memories without forcing them, while Zara's scientific questions helped him articulate feelings he'd never put into words. "Before the smell is what I remember most," he said, as they waited for the synthesized dough to reach the proper consistency, that combination of baking bread, tomatoes, and melted cheese, it meant safety, family, being loved unconditionally. Nix moved closer, and Rico felt that familiar wave of calm wash over him. "May I?" she asked, extending her hand toward his. "I'd like to experience that memory with you if you're comfortable sharing it." Rico hesitated for just a moment before taking her hand. The contact was electric, but not in a purely physical sense. Through Nix's empathic connection, he suddenly found himself back in his grandmother's kitchen at age 8, watching her roll out pizza dough while telling him stories about the old country. The memory was so vivid, so real, that he could smell the herbs growing on the windowsill and hear the ancient radio playing in the background. "Oh," Nix breathed, her eyes wide with wonder. "It's beautiful, the love she had for you, the way cooking was her way of showing care. I can feel all of it." Zara had been watching with scientific fascination, but Rico could see genuine emotion in her silver eyes. "Among my people we share knowledge through direct neural transfer. But this is different. This is sharing the essence of experience itself. Can you feel it too?" Rico asked her. "Not directly," Zara admitted. "But Nixon, I have developed a form of limited, empathic connection during our time together through her. I can sense echoes of what you're sharing." As they assembled their improvised pizza, using ingredients synthesized to match Rico's memories as closely as possible, he found himself telling them about his life on Earth, not the sanitized version he usually shared with strangers, but the real story. His grandmother, who raised him after his parents died in a transport accident, his dreams of exploring the stars, the pain of leaving the only family he'd ever known to pursue those dreams. "You've carried guilt about leaving her," Nix observed gently, her hand still connected to his. "She wouldn't want that. You know, I can feel the love in these memories, and love wants the beloved to pursue their dreams, even when it means separation." Rico felt tears prick his eyes. "The first time he'd cried in years. She died while I was on my second cargo run. I couldn't make it back for the funeral. I've always wondered if she thought I abandoned her." "She knew you loved her," Nix said with absolute certainty. "That knowledge lives in these memories you carry. She was proud of your courage in following your dreams." When their improvised pizza emerged from the molecular synthesizer, it didn't look exactly like his grandmother's version, but the smell was close enough to transport Rico back to those Sunday afternoons. They ate together in comfortable silence, and Rico was amazed at how sharing this simple meal with these two remarkable women felt more intimate than any romantic encounter he'd ever had. "This is incredible," Zara said, savoring each bite with scientific precision. "The way the combination of flavors creates emotional resonance, it's like edible poetry." "Among my people we have a saying," Nix added, her golden patterns now glowing with warm contentment. "The heart recognizes nourishment in many forms tonight. We're all being nourished." As they finished eating, Rico found himself studying his companions more closely. Zara's silver skin seemed to correspond to her emotions, becoming brighter when she was excited about a new discovery and softening to a gentle glow. When she was content, her intelligence was obvious, but there was also a playfulness about her that suggested she didn't take herself too seriously despite her academic achievements. Nix was different, but equally fascinating. Her empathic abilities went far beyond simple emotion. Sensing, she seemed to understand people on a fundamental level, to see connections and patterns that others missed. But there was strength there too, a core of resilience that suggested she'd overcome significant challenges in her life. "Can I ask you both something?" Rico said as they moved back to the main seating area. "What are you really doing here? I mean, this place doesn't exactly seem like the kind of establishment that would attract a xenobiologist and an empathic healer." Zara laughed, settling onto the couch beside him. "You mean, besides the incredibly reasonable rates, actually. We're both traveling to the same destination, the Andromeda Gateway Station. There's a conference on interspecies cooperation happening there next week. I'm presenting research on empathic healing techniques for trauma victims of different species," Nix explained, taking a seat on Rico's other side. "And Zara is delivering a paper on biological compatibility between spacefaring races. The truth is," Zara continued, "we both needed to economize on our travel budget. Academic grants don't exactly cover luxury accommodations. When we met in the lobby and realized we were both respectable beings looking for safe, affordable lodging, Sharing seemed like the logical choice. Then you walked in, Nix added with a smile that made Rico's heart race, and completed our little circle perfectly. The conversation that followed was unlike anything Rico had ever experienced. Zara's scientific curiosity led to fascinating discussions about the differences between species, while Nix's empathic insights helped them understand each other on deeper levels. They talked about their hopes and fears, their dreams and disappointments, their philosophies of life and love on Zerion Prime. Zara explained as the station's artificial night deepened around them. We believe that connection transcends physical form. We're drawn to minds that complement our own, regardless of species or conventional compatibility. And among the Empyreans, Nix added, we're taught that the heart has infinite capacity for love. Restricting ourselves to one connection seems wasteful. Rico felt his pulse quicken. The implications of their words weren't lost on him, and he was becoming increasingly aware of the attraction he felt. For both women, it should have felt wrong or confusing, but instead it felt natural, as if this was exactly where he was supposed to be. Human culture has some pretty strict rules about these kinds of relationships, he said carefully. But you're not on Earth now, Zara pointed out with a mischievous glint in her silver eyes, and we're not bound by human cultural restrictions. Besides, Nix added, her empathic abilities clearly picking up on his internal conflict. I can sense what you're feeling. Ro, the attraction, the connection, it's mutual. All three of us are experiencing something rare and beautiful. Rico looked between these two incredible women who had somehow wandered into his life at its lowest point and felt something shift inside him. The fear and uncertainty that had dominated his thoughts for weeks seemed to fade, replaced by a warmth and possibility he'd never imagined. I've never experienced anything like this, he admitted. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Follow your heart, Zara said. Simply trust what you feel. What Rico felt was overwhelming. Not just physical attraction, though that was certainly present, but something deeper. A connection that seemed to transcend the normal boundaries between people. Through Nix's empathic link, he could sense her genuine care for him, her fascination with his human perspective, her own growing attraction, and Zara's scientific curiosity had evolved into something more personal, a desire to understand him, not just as a research subject but as an individual worth knowing and caring about. I think I'm falling in love with both of you, he said, the words surprising him with their certainty. I know it sounds crazy, but it's not crazy at all, Nix whispered, moving closer to him. It's perfect. When Zara leaned in and kissed him, it was soft and tentative at first, then deeper as Rico responded. Her lips tasted like starlight and possibility, and through Nix's empathic connection he could feel Zara's joy, her relief, her desire. Then Nix's lips were on his neck, gentle kisses that sent shivers through his body when she kissed his lips. The empathic connection intensified, creating a feedback loop of sensation and emotion that left him breathless. Is this really happening? He murmured against Nix's lips. Feel and see, Zara said, her voice husky with desire. Her skin began to glow brighter, and Rico realized that her luminescence was responding to her arousal. The room filled with soft silver light that made everything look dreamlike and magical. Nix's golden patterns were pulsing more rapidly now, and Rico could feel waves of desire and affection flowing through their empathic connection. When she touched him skin to skin, the sensation was indescribable. Not just physical pleasure, but emotional and spiritual connection that seemed to reach into his very soul. They moved together slowly, reverently exploring each other with gentle touches and soft kisses. Zara's scientific curiosity extended to this realm, as well as she marveled at the differences and similarities between their bodies. Nix's empathic abilities created a constant feedback loop of shared sensation, so that every touch was experienced by all three of them. This is how my people bond, Zara explained softly as her clothing seemed to dissolve into points of light. Complete sharing, physical, emotional, mental. Nix's garments melted away like aurora, given form, revealing skin, marked with those beautiful golden patterns that pulsed in rhythm with her heartbeat. No barriers, she agreed. No separation between where one ends and another begins, as they undressed him with reverent care. Rico felt The last of his defenses crumble the fear and isolation that had been his constant companions, for so long seemed to evaporate, replaced by a sense of belonging he'd never thought possible. When skin met skin and their bodies joined together, the connection became almost overwhelming. 3 hearts beating in synchrony. 3 sets of desires building toward the same crescendo. Through Nyx's empathic abilities, every sensation was shared and magnified. Zara's bioluminescence filled the room with warm light that pulsed in rhythm with their movements. Rico found himself touching Zara while feeling everything through Nyx's empathic senses, kissing Nyx, while sharing the experience with Zara through their growing mental connection. The boundaries between individual experience began to blur as they moved together in perfect harmony as their passion built toward its peak. Rico realized that this wasn't just physical joining, it was something far more profound through their connection. He could feel himself becoming part of something larger, something that transcended individual identity, while celebrating it at the same time. The climax, when it came, was shared between all 3 of them, through Nyx's empathic link and Zara's growing telepathic connection. Rico felt not just his own release, but theirs as well, creating a cascade of sensation and emotion that left him gasping in wonder as they lay together in the aftermath, bodies intertwined and hearts still racing. Rico felt a profound sense of completeness he'd never imagined possible. The room glowed softly with Zara's bioluminescence, while Nyx's golden patterns had settled into gentle, contented pulses. "What have we done?" he whispered in wonder. "Something beautiful." Zara replied, her voice filled with scientific amazement and personal joy. "Something that will change all of our lives forever. Something that was meant to be." Nyx added, her empathic senses radiating contentment and love that seemed to fill the entire room as sleep began to claim them, still wrapped in each other's arms. Rico marveled at how his single credit had bought him not just a night of passion, but a connection that felt like coming home after a lifetime of wandering. Tomorrow would bring new challenges and decisions. But for now, he was exactly where he belonged. Dawn came slowly to the Harmony Suite. The station's artificial sunrise, painting the walls in gentle hues of gold and amber. Rico woke gradually, consciousness returning, like a gentle tide rather than the jarring alarm he was accustomed to. For a moment he couldn't remember where he was or why he felt so completely at peace. Then awareness flooded back, and with it the realization that he was still wrapped in the arms of 2 extraordinary women who had transformed his life in a single night. Zara's silver skin had dimmed to a soft moonlight glow, her breathing deep and regular against his chest. Nyx lay curled against his side, her golden patterns now displaying slow, contented pulses that seemed to radiate warmth and happiness. Rico had never woken up feeling so completely rested, so fundamentally at peace with himself and the universe, as if sensing his awakening. Nyx's amber eyes opened, meeting his with a smile that made his heart skip. "Good morning, beautiful soul," she whispered, her empathic abilities immediately filling him with a sense of joy and belonging that was better than any stimulant. Zara stirred at the sound of their voices, her silver eyes opening to regard them both with scientific curiosity and deep affection. "Fascinating," she murmured, stretching gracefully. "I've never experienced sleep patterns synchronized with other beings before. Our rhythms actually aligned during the night. Is that unusual?" Rico asked, marveling at how natural it felt to be having this conversation, while naked and intertwined with 2 alien women. "Extremely," Zara replied, sitting up and activating a holographic display with casual familiarity. "According to my readings, our neural patterns, heart rates, and even brainwave activity synchronized sometime around the 3rd sleep cycle. That level of biological harmony is theoretically possible but rarely documented." Nyx propped herself upon one elbow, her golden patterns shifting to brighter hues. "Among my people, such synchronization is considered a sign of deep soul bonding. It usually takes months or years to develop, not hours." Rico felt a flutter of something that might have been anxiety if not for Nyx's calming influence. "What does that mean for us? I mean, what happens now?" The question hung in the air between them, loaded with implications none of them had fully considered. In the passion of the previous night, Rico was a broke cargo hauler with a dead ship and no prospects. They were accomplished professionals with important careers and destinations waiting for them. The magic of the night seemed fragile in the face of such practical realities. "I have a confession," Zara said, her bioluminescence flickering with what Rico was learning to recognize as nervous excitement. "Last night wasn't entirely coincidental for me." Both Rico and Nix turned to look at her with curiosity and mild concern. "What do you mean?" Nix asked gently. Zara's skin brightened with embarrassment. "I've been tracking energy signatures throughout the station for the past weeks, searching for something specific, the harmonic resonance that occurs when certain beings are in close proximity. What my people call tribonding potential. When I detected the signature coming from this room, I knew I had to investigate." Rico felt his chest tighten so. This was all an experiment, some kind of research project. "No," Zara exclaimed, her silver skin flaring. "Bright with distress, that's not what I mean at all. Yes, I came here because of the energy signature, but what happened between us was completely genuine. The tri-bonding potential can only be detected. It can't be manufactured or forced. We three were